this continuous cycle. The result of that is their customers basically had no ability to use their computers. It is the unfortunate reality of just software in general, but also in this case, cybersecurity being an extremely complicated thing. It's a good indication that at some points, it doesn't really matter how big the company is or how much commercial success it has. It is just a complex problem, and mistakes will occur.
On Friday morning, the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel and the Ambassador Bridge warned of extended wait times. The delays required Windsor police to direct morning rush hour border traffic. Windsor Regional Hospital and other medical institutions also warned of longer wait times in their emergency departments. Although issues were being resolved by the afternoon, Windsor West's Member of Parliament feels the incident shows our vulnerability and the need to invest in workers.
The reality is that we're moving towards technology dependence, and that's why we're short-staffed. There was an abandonment of having people actually in the pill booths, and that's led to a chronic shortage. So anytime we're going to be dependent upon technology, we're going to have greater vulnerabilities if we don't have the people there.
But not all institutions were badly affected. A spokesperson for the City of Windsor said City Hall was not impacted. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
A tentative deal that would see liquor stores reopening is now on hold. The LCBO and union workers reached a tentative agreement this morning, but hours later, that tentative deal was up in the air. Accusations are flying on both sides. The Crown Corporation announced plans to file an unfair labor practice complaint against the union. The union says that LCBO refused to sign a return-to-work protocol that would see workers return to the job on Monday. The strike is now into day 15, and it affects about 9,000 employees. More natural gas will soon be flowing into our region. It's vital for the expansion of local and lucrative greenhouses. Jacob Barker was there for the multi-million-dollar announcement.
A manicured photo op marked the beginning of Enbridge's newest $358 million natural gas pipeline. The new 36-inch pipeline will run 19 kilometers from Lakeshore to Chatham, Kent. It will run parallel to an existing 20-inch one. The premier was on hand today to talk about how the project will boost capacity, calling it the biggest expansion to the province's natural gas transmission system in years.
And it will enable us to build more homes. It will spur billions of dollars in new investments and thousands of new jobs while supporting the region's rapidly growing manufacturing and agricultural sectors.
One of those poised to benefit in a big way are farmers, in particular their greenhouses.
The planned increased capacity in this Panhandle transmission plant will not only service residential, commercial, and industrial, but it will also facilitate the construction of up to 1,200 acres of greenhouse. With no viable alternatives to heat greenhouse structures at this time, the infrastructure investment will provide clean-burning natural gas to grow food while providing the CO2 necessary for growth of plants that further contributes to high-efficiency greenhouse production.
The owner of this facility tells me that the construction behind me is 75 acres of new greenhouse being constructed to grow organic cucumbers. He says as far as natural gas, these facilities are taken care of, but when it comes to new expansion, more natural gas will be needed. More gas means more housing, and it will help meet the provincial government's goal to build 1.5 million houses by 2031.
Expanding capacity through investments like this one in the Panhandle transmission system is needed if we want to reach our housing targets.
The goal is for the pipeline to be in service by the beginning of November and have all the work completed by 2025. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Leamington.
A large recall has been issued on the Windsor-made Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrid. Stellantis is telling the owners of more than 24,000 plug-in hybrid minivans to park them outdoors, away from buildings. They also want you to stop charging these Pacificas because of possible battery fires. The company said Thursday that this recall applies to certain 2017 through 2021 Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrids, mainly in North America. Some are being recalled for a second time, and while they need to be parked at a distance, Stellantis says they can still be driven. Something was in the air in parts of Windsor this morning, and it wasn't good.
While I was coming to my work, I smelled something like propane or this kind of smell, like it's a gas or something. Still, I'm smelling this type of odor.
And he wasn't alone. Windsor Fire received several calls about the unpleasant scent. It did eventually locate the source of the odor, emphasizing that it posed no public health risk. According to Windsor's fire prevention officer, the smell was from a company in the West End. They were releasing a substance called mercaptan. The fire department says the company should have notified them in advance, but despite the rotten cabbage smell, it stressed there was no cause for concern. After sounding the alarm on a shortage of ambulances available to respond to emergencies, Essex Windsor EMS says the situation continues to improve. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa reports.
It's a positive trend, one that Essex Windsor EMS hopes will stick around. Because of the changes it and local hospitals have made, ambulances are more readily available to respond to the community. At County Council this week, local politicians praised EMS Chief Justin Lammers after his update.
I got to commend you and your team for this report. This is outstanding, but please let's keep it rolling. I know that's the intention. So thank you and your team for everything that you've done. Again, this is tremendous news.
Lammers had just shown several graphs and charts which displayed that the amount of time spent in code black and code red continues to decrease. Code black is when there are no available ambulances. Code red is when there are between 1 and 3 ambulances ready to respond. Last year, there had already been a noticeable improvement, but this year is supposed to be even better. Projections show that compared to 2023, there will be a 71% decrease in minutes spent in code black and a 21% decrease in minutes spent in code red. This is vastly different than what the region was experiencing nearly 2 years ago, when EMS and other officials declared an emergency over the lack of available ambulances in the community. That year, the service had logged more than 2,000 minutes where there wasn't a single ambulance free to respond to calls. Since then, there's been changes that EMS say have helped. Those include nurses to help offload patients once an ambulance gets to the hospital, 2 new ambulances, 20 new paramedics. And EMS also points to a handful of programs that help divert patients from the emergency department and either provide care for them in the community or help connect them to other healthcare services. Essex Windsor EMS wasn't available to comment today. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Well, we've had our share of hot days this summer. We had the heat dome, we've had heat warnings, and there's promise of more to come. So hot at points that you might be thinking it's hotter than hell. Well, on July 14th, 1995, CBC's Corey McCrindle had that same question, so we went to hell and back to find out.
So how hot was it in Windsor today?
Hotter than hell.
But was it really? I decided to find out. So I went there. Hell, Michigan, that is. It's northwest of here, just past Ann Arbor. Actually, hell isn't such a bad place to be. It's very scenic. Almost a paradise. And the Hellions are friendly little devils, too.
Very nice people. Very sporty people. It's a recreation area. It's boating, camping, and you see a variety of people.
Robert Davis has his own story about this town.
I got married in hell. 1968, I got married in hell. We eloped. We stood up for one couple one weekend, and they stood up for us next weekend. So I'm one of the, we moved out here, and I can originally say I got married in hell, and I live in hell.
And as you might expect, it was hot there today. At noon, the temperature was about 98 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 37 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, at the same time in Windsor, it was 102 or 39 Celsius. It's not a big difference, but enough to give us bragging rights. So there you have it. It really was hotter than hell in Windsor today. Corey McCrindle, CBC News, Hell, Michigan.
What do you think, Colette?
Made me laugh, and I'd love to check in with that guy. He was married in hell, he lives in hell. I hope his marriage hasn't been hell. That's all. I hope they're still going strong.
I love that. I looked it up just to make sure, see what you can do in there now. You can actually buy a plot of land in hell, and you can be mayor of the day in hell as well.
There's a lot of good things going on there. You know, I tell you, Chris, I thought maybe we should check out. What do you tell me? Do you think today we are hotter than hell or not? I thought we'd take
I don't
a
think
look.
so. I think we had a nice mild day here. I think we're doing okay.
So hotter than? Not
I think
as
we're
hot
colder
as,
than. I
the
think not
same
frozen
as.
over, but I think it's colder here.
Okay, well, let's go and have a look, all right? Let's check it out, see what we've got here. If I can get these graphics to roll for us. Well, how about that? We have something in common. We have something in common with hell, 25 degrees. So bang on there in terms of feeling the same too. And in fact, talking about the feels like temperature, why don't we just check out not Hells, but southwestern Ontario, the humidex values here, 28, so you add a little bit in there, not too much, really comfortable. This is this new air mass that we're into, you know, it's a much drier feel to it, as I've been talking about. It was billed this way, and I'm sure you're feeling it this way as well. We're going to start to see the humidity pushing back in a little bit anyway, because our winds will be changing direction, and that means we're going to feel it, but then they're going to change again as we get towards Sunday. So it's not going to last too long. For now, though, you see the northerly flow with most of our directional arrows, or at least Sarnia and for Windsor, Chatham, Kent. Sometimes the lake has a little bit of an impact in there. London from the north as well. And speaking of that flow, plus the clear skies from last night, yes, down to 10 degrees in London last night. Not quite as cool. We didn't quite get to that forecast low for Windsor, 12.8. It was still a relatively chilly night. A few of those fair weather clouds that kind of build up during the day with some of the daytime heating when you have some cooler air in place, especially the cooler air aloft. But other than that, through the overnight, then we see things clearing back out. And that's what we're going to have again tonight. It's still that big dominant ridge of high pressure. And it's quite interesting to see all the lightning strikes. It looks like forests almost, all going around that ridge of high pressure, because that's where all the weather patterns are. So again, into Saturday, a lot of sunshine, a tiny bit of fair weather cloud will begin to move in at times, but otherwise on Sunday we've got a cold front that presses in and just some isolated showers. I mean, highly isolated. Most areas will stay dry tonight. Not quite as cool as last night. Even London, only 13, and not that 10, but still, these are readings below seasonal. And tomorrow we're really going to warm things back up. So 29 to 30 for the afternoon high tomorrow. Sunday, even as the cold front comes down, it doesn't have a big impact on southwestern Ontario, but it's there with that chance of a shower. And then we're going to keep 27 to 29 into next week, Chris.
Not bad at all. Thanks, Ms. Colette.
You're welcome.
As we take a live look outside, nice to see the sun. We got the clouds. We also have some road closures. Wyandotte Street over in Walkerville, they've got to shut down for a street market right now. Good day for that, certainly in this type of weather conditions. We've got more for you after the break. The International Court of Justice says Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories and its settlements there are illegal. The ICJ is the United Nations highest court, but the advisory opinion issued today is non-binding. The CBC's Tom Perry explains.
We today heard from the president of the International Court of Justice, Judge Nawaf Salam from Lebanon. He read out this advisory opinion. The court has found that Israel's presence in the occupied territories, and the court says that's East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza, that's a violation of international law. It says Israel's policy of building settlements in occupied territories is a violation of the Palestinian people's right to self-determination. It says Israel has an obligation to put an end to what it calls these unlawful acts, to cease all new settlement activity, pull its settlers out of the occupied regions, and end its occupation as rapidly as possible. The court also says Israel has an obligation to provide reparations and restitution to the Palestinian people and to return land and property seized from them. This is not a ruling, it's not a verdict, it's an opinion from the ICJ, and it is non-binding. The hope from Palestinian officials, though, is that this opinion will carry political weight.
Israel's occupation has been declared unlawful by the World Court, which has stipulated that it must be terminated completely and as rapidly as possible. This means Israel is under an obligation to end this illegal colonial enterprise unconditionally. And in our view, that means immediately and totally.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has posted a statement on social media that says the Jewish people are not conquerors in their own land. No false decision in The Hague will distort this historical truth. And likewise, the legality of Israeli settlements in all the territories of our homeland cannot be disputed. So while Palestinians are welcoming this opinion from the court, the Israeli government is rejecting it outright. Tom Perry, CBC News, London.
Yemen's Houthi rebels are claiming their first lethal strike inside Israel. An Iranian-made drone hit Tel Aviv today, killing one person and wounding at least 10 others.
This sound of this drone was like a vibration that woke me right up, and then the explosion rattled the whole building.
Shrapnel rained down over a large area near the U.S. Embassy. It's unclear if the drone struck a building or exploded in the air. The military says the drone was detected by air defenses, but an error occurred and there was no interception. Most rockets and drones launched by the Houthis failed to reach the southernmost point in Israel, and Tel Aviv is hundreds of kilometers away. The Houthis say that the attack is retaliation for the war in Gaza. A Russian court has sentenced American journalist Evan Gershkovich to 16 years in prison. The sentencing comes after the Wall Street Journal correspondent was convicted of espionage in a closed-door trial. Now, he was taken into custody last year while on a reporting trip in eastern Russia. CBC's Briar Stewart has the latest.
As the judge read out the verdict, Evan Gershkovich stood in the prisoner's box, appearing thinner but calm. The Wall Street Journal reporter had to have known it would likely come to this. Russian courts almost always convict the accused, and trials for espionage are held behind closed doors until there's a verdict. The prosecutor said the court established that Gershkovich was working for the CIA when he was gathering information about a Russian tank factory. From the moment Gershkovich was arrested in 2023, the Wall Street Journal and U.S. officials decried the charges, declaring him wrongfully detained. They described his trial as a sham. Gershkovich's trial was supposed to continue next month, but his defense team pushed to move it up, and that has some hoping that there may be momentum for a prisoner swap.
I want to think it's a good signal.
Sonia Groisman used to work with Gershkovich in Moscow and has been corresponding with him while he's in prison.
Even if we all knew it's gonna happen, when I was looking at it, I was like crying because it's just surreal.
Russian officials have previously said that there can only be exchanges once there's a verdict. 4 months after U.S. basketball player Brittany Griner was convicted of drug smuggling, she was traded for a notorious Russian arms dealer.
We're working it. We're working it as we speak, and we're not going to stop until we get Evan home, we get Paul Whelan home.
Whelan is a former Marine and also a Canadian citizen.
The prisons here are very, very different than the prisons at home.
This spring, he called CBC News from a penal colony. He was also convicted of espionage and has been imprisoned for nearly 6 years. During this whole time, he's been holding out for some kind of deal. And now officially convicted, so too is Gershkovich. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
The Olympics are coming, and when we come back, we look at a sport set to return in 2028 that's surging in popularity. The game of cricket returns to the Olympics in 2028, the sport surging in popularity here in Canada, especially among young people. Gareth Hampshire has the story.
Tommy Upton wasn't sure there would be much cricket when he moved to Nova Scotia from England, but in the 2 years he's been in the province, he's been impressed.
I've just seen it blow up, honestly. Now we have 4 divisions, 4 teams in each division, and it's just really got quite big.
The 16-year-old plays for the Halifax Cannons team and has now been chosen to play in a national tournament that starts next week. Because Nova Scotia does not have a youth team, he's representing Quebec in the Under-17 Canada Cup.
I hope I play well and do Quebec proud, yeah.
Amav Singh Kalra, who is 15, will also be at the tournament in Mississauga. He arrived in Nova Scotia from India 8 months ago.
So recently, Canada also participated in the ICC Men's T20 World Cup. We saw them playing. Yeah, so it's really huge. Everyone's playing cricket, even in Nova Scotia.
Now that cricket is played at Don Bear Field in Dartmouth, as well as the Common, there's room for even more players. In the past year, the Nova Scotia Cricket Association says playing numbers have doubled from 250 to around 500. Rhys Telling, who's a former professional from South Africa and now runs a cricket academy, says it's reflective of the changing demographic in Nova Scotia.
We're having people from India, Pakistan, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, to say the least, who have come and made Canada home. And cricket is basically the only sport that they know.
There's a lot more interest in the women's game as well. 17-year-old Shrestha Diatol is playing in the first ever national under-19 girls tournament in Brampton.
I'm a bit nervous because I get to meet a lot of girls and I feel like maybe they will know more than me. But at the same time, I'm really happy that I get to be a part of this.
All 3 young players are a part of Telling's Eastern Cricket Academy, getting specialist coaching.
Because if your head is too far back, you're going to sky the ball all the time. So you are trying to have your balance and your power to go through the shot of the ball.
He says it's an exciting time for the game, with cricket coming back to the Olympics in 2028. But for the growth to continue, they all want to see even better playing and practice facilities in the region. Gareth Hampshire, CBC News, Halifax.
A lot of love for the sport here in Windsor as well. A British railway agency has released a hair-raising video. They're trying to scare people into better behavior at railway crossings. This video is a mashup of near misses caught on camera at the railway crossings. It's posted online with the headline, "What are these people thinking?" Oh my gosh. Aside from those near misses, there's also evidence of just plain poor judgment, such as when a pair of bikers attempt to sneak through that closed crossing there. Wow. Now, we know that rare antique items can fetch a lot of money at auctions, but what if it's really ancient, like 150 million years old?
At 40 million then. That's yours, Jody. Sold.
And this here is what sold: a large Stegosaurus specimen sold by Sotheby's in New York, the most valuable fossil ever sold at auction. The first time an auction house has brought a dinosaur directly to market. Named Apex, it's the largest, most complete Stegosaurus ever found. Now, CBC is the official broadcaster for the Summer Olympic Games, and to celebrate, CBC Windsor has a limited edition pin to commemorate the Paris 2024 Games. It's just like the one I'm wearing here now. Send us your memories of the golden moments that you can think of through our website, windsor@cbc.ca. We'll draw a winner throughout the game. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend.